days. Don't be left behind. Join the new normal of digital world. Let radio and television be at your fingertips. Get news and current events, entertainment, sports, kiddies programs, and more at your beck and call on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Just visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms. Then you are a global citizen. Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Voice of the voiceless.
It is essential to be up to date on happenings around you, and to make that easy for you, ladies and gentlemen, we present Freshlight, where we bring fresh newspaper headlines to the limelight. Mondays to Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Watch, like, subscribe, and make sure your notification is activated on our YouTube channel. You can also like and comment on our pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. A beautiful Tuesday morning, the 10th day in the month of October 2023. While some have been saying 10-10-2023. Welcome to Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. We're ready and committed this morning once again to take you through some of the stories and headlines we have in our newspapers this beautiful morning. My name is Modupe Akinyosoye. Without further ado, let's move and go into business. All right, we start with the front pages of our newspapers to see the headlines we have on the front pages, and then we can just take a couple of stories from the newspapers. Let's start with the Vanguard newspaper. All right, from the Vanguard newspaper, the front page, we have stories and headlines like recall of ambassadors, envoys stranded as federal government foot drags on implementation. This comes with several riders. The details on page 5 in the Vanguard newspaper. Also on the front page of the Vanguard, e-Naira to threat to financial stability, says CBN. That's on page 19 in the Vanguard newspaper. On Warri concert, Davido, organizers at war over non-appearance. You have that on page 7 in the Vanguard newspaper. On Japa syndrome, federal government okays engagement of retired health workers on contract basis. Page 8 graces the details of that very story. And also still on the front page of the Vanguard, petrol subsidy not back. Kyari, NNPCL CEO, revealing that on page 9 in the Vanguard newspaper. And Israel intensifies attack and forces a total blockage of Gaza. That comes with triple riders, to be precise, on page 25 in the Vanguard newspaper. Tinubu appoints Fela Durotoye, 4 others in his media team. Page 8 captures that very story. European Union reports inaccurate reflection of 2023 polls. Wike also revealing that statement on page 9 in the Vanguard newspaper. And also from the front page, we will break jinx of non-harmonization of database in Nigeria. Interior Minister assuring that and giving assurance on page 9 in the Vanguard newspaper. On diphtheria, Yobe records 117 deaths, 1,796 suspected cases. We have that on page 13 in the Vanguard newspaper. And also we have a sport headline right here that says, Osimhen's coach at Napoli faces sack. Page 30 captures that very sport story. And you get to see the picture of President Bola Tinubu right on the front page. And also Ambassador Yusuf Tugar and Ambassador Joe right on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. And let's go through the stories of the Vanguard to give you a couple of the stories we have in the belly of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's start with this let's take a trip outside Nigeria to give you this update from Israel. Israel intensifies attack and forces total blockade of Gaza. Hamas threatened to kill hostages. This one with triple riders. Cuts power supply, food, fuel, and drugs. Hamas threatened to kill hostages. Shiites back Palestinians. The Gaza Strip could be on the brink of a new humanitarian crisis if supplies are not allowed in, authorities say, as Israel responds to the Hamas attack. Israel yesterday declared a complete siege on the territory, saying electricity, food, fuel, and water would be cut off. According to residents, aid has not reached the enclave since Saturday. BBC footage shows deserted streets covered with rubble from collapsed buildings following Israeli airstrikes, and more than 500 people have died in the reprisal attack. The rest of us is very unfortunate incidents happening in Israel against Palestinians. You get to see in the Vanguard newspaper. Israel intensifies attack, enforces total blockage of Gaza. Hamas threatening to kill hostages. And back to Nigeria, let's take this report from the Vanguard. This madness of Chicago State University must stop now. Not coming from me, coming from Agbakoba. Former president of Nigeria Bar Association, NBA, Dr. Olisa Agbakoba, senior advocate of Nigeria, has said the Supreme Court should be allowed to make a judicial pronouncement on the Chicago State University CSU certificate of President Bola Tinubu rather than eating up the policy. Agbakoba, whose position was contained in a statement he issued to newsmen on Monday, said, and I quote, "This madness of Chicago State University must stop now." Berated lawyers who, it said, had continued with their media trial on the television regarding the issue. This madness of Chicago State University must stop now. Agbakoba revealing that from the Vanguard newspaper. Away from that, also from the Vanguard, on ambassadors recall, envoys stranded as federal government foot drags on implementation. 5 weeks after President Bola Tinubu recalled ambassadors and 21 days before the October 31 deadline for their return, the federal government appears to have backtracked on the policy, fueling speculations that the government may have given them a month's extension. On September 2, President Tinubu recalled all of Nigeria's ambassadors, both career and non-career envoys. Nigeria has no fewer than 300 foreign missions. The recall was communicated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, sequel to inquiries on the letter, recalling the Nigerian High Commissioner to the UK, Ambassador Sarafa Ishola, beg your pardon. Ambassador Tugar clarified that all career and non-career ambassadors had been recalled on the instructions of President Tinubu. From the Vanguard, ambassadors recall, envoys stranded as federal government for drags on implementation. And let's move away from the Vanguard newspaper. Let's pick up the This Day newspaper to see what we have. Let's start with the front page of the This Day newspaper. All right, we have a statement from Kyari. Nigeria to be net exporter of refined petroleum products next year. That with a rider, and the details on page 25 in the This Day newspaper. Away from that, with 50% capacity, NLNG train 8 no longer feasible, says Michelle Bila, that with a rider on page 25 as well in the This Day newspaper. CBN says e-Naira to threat to financial stability. That's also resurfacing, and the details of that on page 5 in the This Day newspaper. Court adjourns Ondo deputy governor suit to encourage reconciliation. Page 27 graces that story on slain lawyer, killer cop, ASP Vandi to die by hanging. You have that on page 25 as well in the This Day newspaper. And also from the front page of the This Day, Israel Hamas war death toll tops 1,500 as Gaza Strip is bombed. Gun battles rage for third day. You have that on page 26 in the This Day newspaper. And also you get to see the picture of Chief Gabriel Ibenedion and Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu at the ongoing opening ceremony of the 61st anniversary and the 36th conference of the Committee of Vice Chancellor of Nigerian Universities in Abuja yesterday, right on the front page of the This Day. And let's quickly go through the This Day newspaper. Let's start with this very report from the CEO of NNPCL. Kyari says Nigeria to be net exporter of refined petroleum products next year with a rider. Says Tinubu saved NNPC from going bankrupt by removing fuel subsidy. The federal government yesterday debunked news making the rounds that had backed down on its complete removal of petrol subsidy, insisting that fuel subsidy was gone for good. And there had been media reports that the federal government had been paying subsidies on petrol so as to keep the pump price from skyrocketing beyond the current average of 619 naira per litre. But responding to the issue for the first time while answering reporters' questions after a closed-door meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the State House, Abuja, the Group Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, said there was no subsidy whatsoever as the NNPCL was recovering full cost of petroleum products being imported. Nigeria to be net exporter of refined petroleum product next year, says Kyari from the This Day newspaper. And taking this one from the This Day as well, court sentences ASP Vandi to death for killing Bolanle Rahim. A Lagos High Court sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS, has sentenced policeman ASP Drambi Vandi to death by hanging for killing a property lawyer, Omobolanle Rahim. Justice Ibirunke Arisin, in a judgment, held that ASP Vandi was guilty of murder, stating, "You are to be hanged by the neck until you are dead. May God have mercy on your soul." Vandi had shot Ms. Rahim dead in the presence of her husband while returning from church on Christmas Day last year at the police checkpoint in Lagos. And Mrs. Rahim, who was pregnant, was fatally shot on Christmas Day by the police officer attached to the Ajoe Police Divisional in the Aja area of the state. Court sentences ASP Vandi to death for killing Bolanle Rahim. The This Day captures that very story. And we have a report right here that says Senate Minority Whip urges IOCS to end gas flaring practices destroying the environment. The Senate Minority Whip, Senator Darlington Uwokocha, yesterday called on international oil companies, IOCs, and multinational corporations operating in Nigeria to put an end to gas flaring and other practices to reduce the impact of climate change. He said this in an interview at the end of the 2023 Global Parliamentarian Forum held on the sideline of the ongoing annual meetings of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Marrakesh, Morocco. Senate Minority Whip urges IOCs to end gas flaring and practices destroying the environment. This day captures that very story. And we'll take more stories and headline after this quick commercial break. Stay with us till Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTV and radio.
Gbogbo aláfẹ́ tó gbayì tó fẹ́ wọṣọ yìí ṣoge tó pàgbàmù ló ń kọjá lọ sí House of Zayana. House of Zayana, the name I know when we talk of top-notch fashion, quality materials and class. House of Zayana, lẹ́tí máa rójúlówó Turkey wears, Egypt and Malaysia clothing, Dubai, àwọn designer bags lóríṣiríṣi, àwọn ìtẹ̀lẹ̀ bàtà tó jiná tí wọ́n fawọ́ original ṣe, àwọn aago kájọ́ tó ń ka wákàtí ọjọ́, designer sunglasses and perfumes, pẹ̀lú àwọn gbogbo nǹkan tóbìnrin àsìkò fi ń gbafẹ́ lò gbà. Mo débẹ̀, ojú mi ń ṣe kámi, èmi ni ó rà, èmi ni ó mú. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin mùsùlùmí ẹlẹ́sìn tẹ́ gbòógè gbọ́n pa fashion tẹ́ wá nílò jàlábíà, hijab àti àbáyà lóríṣiríṣi. House of Zayana lẹ́ò ti rí gbogbo ẹ̀ rà. House of Zayana wà ní 52 Ọlọ́run ṣògo road adjacent Redeemed Church Agape Parish Ọlọ́run ṣògo Abẹ́òkúta. Lórí Instagram House of Zayana 08165688618. House of Zayana, ilé ìtajà tá a ti ń tojúlówó aṣọ àti nǹkan aṣaralóge tí ń gbéni níyì.
Thousands have been disappointed severally in their bid to seek greener pasture abroad. To those quack in the traveling agency business, it is a rocket science. That is not our case at Tausaf Travels and Tour. We have in-depth details on how to successfully, without stress, help you process and secure your visa to anywhere in the world. Do you want permanent residential visa, visiting and tourism visa, student visa to places like Europe, America, Asia, Africa? It's no big deal to us at Tausaf Travels and Tour. Our years of experience and expertise speaks volumes
name for us.
Let's process and secure visa for you to UK, USA, and Canada within a twinkle of an eye. We offer Hajj and Umrah services to our Muslim faithfuls. What are you waiting for? Consult us at number 9, Tausaf Central Mosque, Sholanke Street, behind Laroy Hotel, Abiola Way, Abeokuta. 0802 733 0900 or 0806 578 4060. Stop wasting money. Pay for peace of mind. Talk to Tausaf Travels and Tour.
You're still on to Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Thank you so much for staying with us. And we're still going through some of the stories in our newspapers this morning. And let's pick up the Daily Trust newspaper to see what we have on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Cooking gas price hits 1,200 naira per kg. That's not a cheering one. But right on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper with triple riders and the details of that on page 4 in the Daily Trust. Away from that, also from the front page, will librarians elect another female president today? We get that details on page 10 in the Daily Trust. Fuel scarcity as stations close in Lagos, Kano and others. Page 20 captures that very story. Security operatives killed 67 bandits, rescued 20 victims in Bochi. Page 4 as the very story. And also from the front page, Tinubu's economic policy is going awry. Financial Times reporting that with a rider that says asks president to stop announcing plans without implementation idea. The details of that on page 19 in the Daily Trust newspaper, and you get to see a picture of riot police standby as demonstrations in support of Israel show Israeli flags during demonstration in the Western Germany yesterday, right on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. All right, let's quickly go through the stories we have in the Daily Trust newspaper. We'll start with this very report right here. Taking a trip to Bayelsa State with Daily Trust. Court disqualifies Silva from Bayelsa governorship poll. A federal high court in Abuja has disqualified Chief Timothy Silva, candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC in the November 11, 2023 governorship election. A member of the party, Deme Kolomo, had in a suit number FHC/ABJ/CS/821/2023 filed on June 13, 2023, challenged the qualification of Silva to contest the forthcoming election, basing his claim on the fact that Silva had previously taken oath of office as the governor 2 times and has already ruled the state for 5 years. The rest of that in the Daily Trust. Court disqualifies Silva from Bayelsa governorship poll. Away from that to this not welcoming story. Cooking gas price hit 1,200 naira per kg. There are growing concerns over the rising price of cooking gas, as a kilogram is now sold for between 1,000 naira and 1,200 naira in parts of the country. Checks by Daily Trust have shown. And there are also fears that the price may rise further owing to the scarcity of the product, which marketers are attributing to supply disruption. And checks by Daily Trust across Lagos State yesterday showed that while 12.5 kilograms of cooking gas is sold for 12,000 naira at some retail stations, a kilogram was sold for 1,150 naira and 1,200 naira in Lagos outskirts like Mowe, Ibafo and Magboro, among others, along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in Ogun State. And when a correspondent of the Daily Trust visited a major retail outlet in the state, the attendant said the product was still being expected, even as many buyers had queued up with their cylinders since morning. From the Daily Trust, cooking gas price hit 1,200 naira per kg. May God help us. Away from that story, let's take a trip outside Nigeria once again. Death toll in Israel-Palestine war rises to 1,500. 500. I beg your pardon. I like money too much. The death toll in the Gaza Strip rose to 704 on Monday evening, the health ministry in the Palestinian enclave said, as Israel pounded Hamas targets for the third consecutive day. Al Jazeera reported that the ministry said at least 704 Palestinians have been killed in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank since October 7, while some 3,726 people have been injured. An estimated 800 people in Israel have also been killed, as well as 4 Hezbollah fighters and Israeli shelling of southern Lebanon. The report from the Daily Trust: death toll in Israel-Palestine war rises to 1,500. Daily Trust captures that story. And a claim by the CEO of the NNPCL: fuel subsidy hasn't returned, says Mele Kyari, Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Mele Kyari on Monday said the administration of President Bola Tinubu has not reinstated fuel subsidy. And this is despite the confirmation of oil marketers that the federal government has restored subsidy for premium motor spirit, also known as petrol. Tinubu had announced the removal of fuel subsidy on his first day in office, leading to increase in fuel price from 197 naira to between 480 naira and 570 naira. The pump price was subsequently reviewed upward to 620 naira. However, there were reports that the price would go up as a result of fluctuation in the global oil market, and there were also reports that the federal government intervened to prevent further rise in pump price. The rest of that in the Daily Trust newspaper. Fuel subsidy hasn't returned, says Mele Kyari. And let's move away from the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's go to the Punch newspaper to start with the front page of the Punch newspaper. What do we have? Federal government denies subsidy return. More fuel stations short with double riders. And the details of that on page 19 in the Punch newspaper. Israeli Hamas conflict. Federal government wants pilgrims against illegal trips. Lagos suspends airlifting. With a rider, 310 pilgrims evacuated from Jordan. Death toll nears 1,500. Page 2 captures the detail. 4 consortia to fix dilapidated pipelines. Page 20 has the story. Away from that, domestic airlines demand jet fuel import license and forex. Page 20 captures that. Concerns as commercial sex workers invade Lagos malls and lure men. Page 4 and 5 has the metro story. Ayedatiwa drops suit against Ondo Assembly, and Akeredolu. Page 8 has the very story. And also on slain lawyer, Lagos NBA welcomes death centers for killer cop. Page 4 and 5 right in the Punch newspaper, and you get to see the picture of the ASP and the slain lawyer. May Akinyosoye continue to rest in peace. Moving to the Punch newspaper, let's take a couple of stories from the Punch. Alright, we start with this very report right here. Domestic airlines demand jet fuel import license and forex. Domestic airlines under the aegis of Airline Operators of Nigeria on Monday demanded that the federal government should allow AON procure the requisite license for the importation and distribution of aviation fuel, popularly called Jet A1. AON also asked the federal government to provide a dedicated support line for domestic airlines to access foreign exchange from the Central Bank of Nigeria in order to enable the carriers to meet the obligations to air travelers. And they made a call during a courtesy visit to the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, at his office in Abuja. Domestic airlines demand jet fuel import license and forex. Away from that, let's move to the Metro page and give you details to this very headline. Concerns as commercial sex workers invade Lagos malls lure men. Concerns are rising as young ladies suspected to be commercial sex workers now loiter around major shopping malls and eyebrow streets in Lagos to lure prospective customers. Punch Metro learned that the skimpily dressed ladies usually position themselves in strategic locations within the malls to lure men. A correspondent of the Punch who visited places such as Ikeja City Mall, Festival Mall and Allen Avenue observed that ladies suspected to be between the ages of 20 and 30 were locking around the premises to woo prospective customers. And one of the correspondents who visited ICM around 10 p.m. on Saturday was accosted by no fewer than 3 different young ladies in revealing and sexually enticing blouses. The rest of our very story in the Punch newspaper concerns as commercial sex workers invade Lagos malls and lure men. And also let's take this very report from NIMET. NIMET predicts 3-day dust haze and thunderstorms. The Nigeria Meteorological Agency has issued a weather forecast indicating the likelihood of dust haze and thunderstorms from Monday to Wednesday across the nation. It is in its weather outlook report obtained on Monday. The agency predicted dust haze with a visibility range of 1 kilometer to 3 kilometer and localized visibility of less than or equal to 1,000 meter was anticipated over the northern region on Monday. Similarly, localized visibility of less than or equal to 1,000 meter is anticipated in some areas, and thunderstorms are also expected later in the day, particularly in parts of Taraba State. NIMET predicts 3-day dust haze and thunderstorm. You get that in the Punch newspaper. And let's quickly take this also. Experts call for robust implementation of Mental Health Act. Mental health experts have called on the federal government to ensure proper implementation of the Mental Health Act in Nigeria. The call was made as today marks World Mental Health Day by the World Health Organization with the theme Mental Health is a Universal Human Right. And WHO explains every October 10 is to raise awareness of mental health issues around the world and to mobilize effort in support of mental health. Experts call for robust implementation for Mental Health Act. The Punch newspaper captures that very story. And let's take story from the sports pages of the Punch newspaper. We have this very report here that says Nigeria, South Africa could face Morocco in AFCON group. Nigeria, South Africa and Morocco could be placed in the same group when the African Cup of Nations draw is made in the Ivory Coast on Thursday. The 6 top seeds include Morocco, who created history at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar by becoming the first semi-finalist from Africa. Nigeria is among the 2nd seeds, while South Africa has had to settle for a place among the 3rd seeds for the draw in Abidjan, the Ivorian economic capital. At surprise 2021 Cup of Nations quarter-finalist Gambia from the 4th seed, and it would be a striking group of death, the term given to particularly tough sessions. Nigeria, South Africa could face Morocco in AFCON group. Details of that in the Punch newspaper. And from that very sports story, we call it a day and take a bow on Freshlight and Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Thank you so much for those on our social media platform, on Facebook at Al-IyamoyeTV Radio, on the X platform, formerly Twitter, at Iyamoye_TV, and on Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTV. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Al-IyamoyeTV Radio and turn on your alarm button to get notifications of our programs. Don't forget, we can definitely take your products and services to the doorstep of your targeted audience right here on Al-IyamoyeTV and radio. Just reach out to us and definitely we'll do the needful. I remain Modupe, Akinyosoye. Good morning.